Let's see. We've got audio. Audio input capture is good. Video good. Charts. Where are the charts? Yes. Let's go to this chart here. Take a look at that. And we're good. How you doing, folks? Ernie here. And today is Wednesday, October 9th. And the title of this video is Where is the Volatility? Is it finally here? You know, volatility is the lifeblood of any trader. When volatility falls flat, so does opportunity. So, you know, that's why I welcome this this move up here. I mean, we had a minor move up into a trade that we made a few days ago, and then everything just went flat. The trade was a short, and so we anticipated that it would go short, but it didn't. It went up, and it looks like it's you know, fairly strong move up, continuing to get pushed as we speak. I mean, if I take a look at tensor charts, there's a big fight going on right at about 86.50 or so. Now, we did have a new signal that came out that has taken over the previous trade, which we have now sort of rolled over into that signal. And so if the previous trade turns out to be a bust, where we entered at 82.13, then hey, so be it. That'll be, let's see, 20 out of 23, I think. So, you know, we can take that. But the thing that I like to talk about right now is that it appears as if we have this sort of newfound volatility. And from our point of view, when there's very low volatility, you can't really risk anything. I mean, you can't put on big positions. You got to put on really tiny positions. And so that's the one thing that I think, you know, in cases like this, this previous trade with ultra low volatility, we recommend going in with, you know, small positions, and then if it goes against us, then we add to it, which most of us did. So the interesting thing is that when price did go against us here on that previous trade, and if you added to it, then you've raised your cost basis. So now when we get this move sort of against us, and let's say that there's another short, we're already a step up into it. It's like selling into the strength. So that's all a good thing. I'll report on what this new trade is tomorrow, because my overall standard is not to sort of compromise our subscribers and report on trades on the day that they're made. But now that volatility seems to be coming back, it's still, I mean, if you look at the average true range over the past several days, yeah, we'll take a look at this. Hold on a second. Bring up the chart. So since we had the big drop, which, by the way, I might add that we nailed that to a T, and we've had at least 2 other trades in here that were successful. This particular trade, this last trade that was made 3 days ago, and theoretically it still has another day to go, or until at least UTC 0 today, didn't pan out. So now we've moved up again. Now I drew this rectangle or channel, or what I consider maybe the flag to this pole a few days ago. And I drew it based on the profile of volume here on the right-hand side, making it approximately the same width as the base of that volume node, thinking that this is where we're going to interact. Now, if we enter up into this volume well, that could mean that we could quickly move up to this next volume node back up to where we were. Now, the interesting thing here is checking out volatility. Now, we were on a roll back in most of September, mid to late August, most of September, because we had this fantastic level of volatility that you can clearly see by the price action up here. And if you look at the average true range, which is this down here below. Let me get rid of this rectangle. I was trying to make a point to subscribers with this. And perhaps what I can do is I can put in a horizontal line. So if I put a horizontal line in here, let's make this average true range a little bit easier to see. We'll make it a thicker line, and let's make it a yellow. Nice yellow. There we go. So currently, if you took a 20-day average of first of all, let me describe what the average true range is. It's a calculation that measures each individual bar, its high to low, and then takes kind of an average over some period. And out of the box, I believe the average true range looks at a 20 period. So 20 bars back, it will look at the high to low range of each individual bar and kind of average it out. And so right now, currently, it's at 143 points. So what it's saying is that the average bar over 20 periods is approximately 143 points. Now, obviously, this bar here is much bigger than that, but all these other bars are smaller, and then we have these other, this rise up here, but in general, the average of 143 is relatively low. You can see that if I put this here, let's say at about 150, you can see that there has been a good deal of period where we've been at or below that 150 range. Now, average true range is a really good measure of volatility. And so I guess what I'm saying here is that, all the good trades and the easier trading, the more profitable, the things where you have, let's get the big head back on, where you have more opportunity are those where you have more range, where you can buy low, sell high, or sell high, buy low. The more range that you have, the more opportunity that you have. The more frequency in the change of that range, the more opportunity there is. I mean, price goes up and down, up and down, up and down. And in general, what you're trying to catch is the up and down in a direction, up or down, and then within that range gives you the opportunity to set trades and then get out. When things are moving very, very smoothly, that's very, very difficult to do that unless you're super prescient and you can get a very, very narrow range and then predict that it's going to go up or down within a longer period. That's much more difficult to do. So PatternCast, what we found is that for most assets, a 4-day window is about the limit of predictability. And so everything that we look at is in a 4-day window. So you could consider that not day trading and not necessarily the full extent of swing trading, which some people believe may go out to, a couple weeks for looking for swings. We're somewhere in between that. From a statistical point of view, we have a high degree of confidence that by matching patterns in the past, within a 4-day period, that we have a really good shot at. We have an edge where we can predict stuff. And so far, since we've introduced this Bitcoin service, that has proven out. So about 20 out of, and if this trade that we just had doesn't work out, that'll be 20 out of 23. So it's still not a bad record. And it will be a relatively small loss, by the way. So that's the way we look at things. We look at things kind of myopically, you know, and as each day passes, we get a new signal that will give us an idea of the patterns that have happened in the past and what's setting up. And so yesterday, I kind of reported on that because we had the signal that we went into, which gave us, you know, one bit of information that got us into the trade because it triggered. And then the next day, it was a non-signal. We just had information that was inconclusive. So if I were to zoom in on that, so let me just you know, be very clear that we're not trading technical analysis at all. Nothing like that at all. We're trading patterns that have occurred over a long period of time and have some statistical relevance. So if we were to look at what happened here, on October 7th, I believe it was, we got a signal that said that should price rise, and the signal came way down here at the low, should price rise up to 82.13, I believe it was, then there's a pattern that shows that particular pattern that's set up in the four-day window, you know, all the way back to October 3rd to the 7th. That's a pattern that it recognized. Let's see. I'll go to the chart so you can see that as I'm talking about it. That's a pattern. So let's see. Let's do a vertical line here so we can see where I'm talking about. So the signal was actually generated right about here. Let's make that a little brighter. And all right. And it's a dotted line. There we go. So the trade that we took was right here. Let's make that a little bit brighter. That's hard to see too. Let's make that yellow with a background of blue. There we go. All right. So we get a pattern right here on this vertical line, a signal that says should price rise up from here, and at that time we were down around 7,800, rise up about 400, 500 points up to this point, then that looks like a good short. Now it started to go short, never really fulfilled its mission. And we give that 4 days. So let's clone that, and we'll put a 4 days later, which would be right about here, right there. And within a 4 day period, PatternCast would expect price, or say based on past things, that it would drop pretty far down. Actually, I thought it was going to drop way down here, and that is based on a pattern that happened between these lines. So based on this pattern, so between here and here. Now, I don't know what that means to PatternCast. The way it figured it out, it looks at that and says, you know, and it also evaluates some data a little bit before that as well. But it looks at that and says, this has happened so many times in the past, and there's should this happen in conjunction with this. All right, so that's how it looks at it. So it's a kind of a what if, saying, okay, we're here. And this actually looks back a little bit, maybe a little bit more, something like this. Should something happen where it jumps up to here, to that level? Let's do a horizontal line. To this level, right there. Let's make that yellow. I'm just showing you how PatternCast thinks. So again, when it made the call, price was down here. And so PatternCast, looks at all this past data, actually goes back a little bit further. It may look as far back as like this, something like this. It looks at some period of data. And then it makes the prediction, a 4-day prediction, that should price move up to this level here, this little level there, then it's seen that before, several times, and when it has, it's moved sharply down. All right, so that was the call. Now that didn't pan out, so here we give it up until this line right there, which would be the 4th day, going from here to there. Now, each day, we get a new call, right? So we get a new call. We get a new call a day later. A new signal, I should say. Right there. And then when that signal came out, it was a non-signal. There was no determinate factor what would happen. Then another signal came out a day later. Right there. And then that's what I reported on that said that, well, should the price move up even further and pretty far up. I mean, I think, what was the signal on that? The signal on that was... The signal was... Should it move up to 86.71? So it was saying if price were to move up to way up here, it was literally looking for it to move this high on this day. Which is very interesting because that's exactly where it has moved up today. Let's see. Is that right? Do I have the days right? Right. So should price move up to there by this point right up here, then the call was, a much more dramatic drop, like down to way down here. I think down to 73 something. So I'm looking at that, and then that signal passed. And then we got a new signal out that predicted something very similar. We'll talk about that, the specifics of that tomorrow. But a new signal came out that looked at something very similar within this 4-day time window that, which actually goes out to here, right there. This was the original trade that we were in. It actually goes out to there, 4 days. So a new signal comes out, and almost similar to this. And that's what we've done. We've moved into this new trade, this new short. And it also predicts price is going to go down. All right? So that gives you an idea of, where we are. So at first, PatternCast at this point in time, 4 days or 3 days earlier, was looking for a price going down. Then it's looking for, 3 days later, a new entry that's much higher with a much bigger drop. And then today, another similar entry with a drop. So PatternCast is actually appears to be calling this, very, very well. The problem is, we have this trade that we were in here that kind of gets left in the dust. So that's kind of interesting, when you look at it like that. So in any case, it appears as if, at least from PatternCast and looking at these patterns that have happened in the past with, fairly high regularity. This previous one that never panned out, that was way up here, happened 4 out of 4 times. Now, it didn't even trigger, so it doesn't count. So we didn't actually get into that trade. The most recent one happened more times, 13 times, with 12 times that it went short. So the trade that we're in now, had about a 93% success rate of going short. So the same with this guy that we originally got into, which was way back on the 7th, I believe. No, I'm sorry. It was further back. That was a 5 out of 6 trade. So not as many occurrences here, saying we were going to go short, but still a pretty high percentage rate. So right now it was 5 out of 6. Now we have to say it's 5 out of 7. So it's still probably if this pattern occurs again, I don't know if it will ever occur. I don't even know how to measure that pattern. PatternCast does. It does it in its own little, brain. It'll probably still be a good trade whenever that happens again, if it ever does happen again. Then PatternCast, now it's a new day, a new set of information that it's evaluating. Now you got to remember, each day this window of evaluation is moving forward, moving forward, moving forward. So it's new information, and it's looking at that. Now it's saying, okay, now it's got all this information in it, and it's saying that it appears the price is going to be jumping up. And of course it did. Now, may have happened 2 bars after it thought it was going to do it. I don't know if that's significant or not. But PatternCast did predict this sort of expansion of the range, which I talked about yesterday. So that is actually what is happening in PatternCast, which I find incredibly remarkable, because it's kept us on the right side of trades all the time going along. Now this is only one half of the PatternCast service. This is what we're seeing with Bitcoin alone. Now we have a traditional markets where we're doing this on dozens and dozens of assets with futures, forex, and stocks in our traditional service. this whole process that I'm describing here is exactly what happens with all of those signals. And we're putting out, I don't know, with that service over the past year, we've had 350 trades with about an 84% win rate. And so this same process that I described, this kind of evaluation and then constant evaluation every day with new information, and then updating that, and then throwing out assets that appear to have a high probability of doing something, and that's how we generate the signals. With Bitcoin, it's just one asset, and so we're looking at that one thing and then trying to make a determination as we're going along. So far, since we've put the service out on August 14th, we've had about what appears to be 23 signals. 20 have proved to be very profitable. 2 of them were very, very small losers. This one I would also consider a very small loser. It's a couple hundred points, maybe 300 points or so loss, where on average all the other winners have been an average of 600-point winners. So 3 losers with an average loss, if I took the others into consideration, probably an average loss of about 200 points. And 20 winners with an average win of 600 points. So you do the math. That's where we stand right now. And we'll talk about the specifics of this particular trade tomorrow. And then we'll just keep on moving forward. I'm always trying to keep like a day behind what's actually happening in the live room, in our live signals, so as to not compromise the service. I mean, occasionally, where we don't have a trade for a long time, like what happened when we had the big drop, this big drop over here. Hold on. Hold your horses. I just want to sort of illustrate here what exactly has been happening over time. So we all remember this at the end of September, this huge drop here. And we called that live on air, almost like, from the time it dropped, within a couple of dollars, right down to here. It was like a 900-point drop. Called it live on the air. The only reason why I did that one live was because we didn't have a trade for a long time, and because of this low volatility. All that low volatility that's up here. I mean, there was one minor trade, but we were going on and on and on, just doing nothing. And we had this one minor trade, and then then PatternCast got us out of it. And so I decided to put that out there live because it was setting up, and PatternCast saw it, and basically using the same process that I was talking about before, and decided to do that live, and nailed it, absolutely nailed it. So then we had a couple of other trades in here when we had good volatility, and those were, real simple, easy, clean trades that we did well. And then we move into this area of low volatility. You can see when I say low volatility, look at the range of the bars. They're very, very tiny. Each individual candlestick is very, very tiny. And things get far less deterministic there. Now, in this particular case, when we took this trade, because we started to pick up with the range a bit and it dropped down, it made a pretty good call. It said, look, if it rises up, take that trade. And it started to work out, but just didn't have enough. And as I said, situations change. So as situations change and PatternCast is reevaluating, it's seeing different things. Now it's saying, okay, Now we have a whole new story a few days later after taking that trade. I know you're in it. You're up a couple bucks, but not that much. It looks like the range is going to expand, and it looks like price is going to go up and have a bigger drop. And so that appears to be exactly what's happening. So while this trade may be a loser, that trade right there might be a loser, what PatternCast is telling us is actually really valuable information and predicting exactly what's happening. So that is the story. That's the rest of the story. All right, now we're going to go to the peanut gallery, so that so you explain. So I can, hopefully that is, gives you a much better picture for what the quality of information that PatternCast is providing us. And there's way more actually beyond that, because what I'm not reporting here is that PatternCast just doesn't give us levels, an entry and an exit. Those entries and exits are actually statistical means, around something, because there's many different occurrences that happen. Like in this particular trade that we're in right now, there were 15 occurrences. So they didn't all land on a very, very specific level, and then that's what we're reporting. There are, a range of levels, and then we're taking the mean of that, the sweet spot. All right. Trader Glenn says, do you think Alexander Usyk will be a heavyweight champ in the... What does that have to do with anything? You sure called that 8696. I'm not sure what that means. Would you agree, Reverend? Oh my God, what is this? This is Peanut Gallery. Forget the Peanut Gallery. I don't have no idea what you guys are talking about. All right. Let's go back to this chart. Just manipulate it. Let's see, just change it around a little bit. Open it up. So that's where we are. This, blue rectangle here represents PatternCast vision. I don't know if that's exactly how big it is. It might be bigger. It might look like this. And every day it's moving up, and it's looking at these patterns. So just trying to give you some insight on how it works. And then each day, it will then, look at those patterns. I don't know how it looks at those patterns, but it uses the lexicon and the training that we've given it. It recognizes them, sees them a certain number of times in the history of Bitcoin, and then calculates different what-if analysis. And so that's exactly what it did here when we took this this trade. It said that given this situation, if by tomorrow price rises up to here, then that's a good short. So that's what we did. So I'm just recapping what we did. And then it started to go short, but never really completed. And the target was way down here. So it looked like, could have been a cool trade. That particular trade was 83% of the time it had worked out 5 out of 6 occurrences. So that seems like an okay trade. Because of low volatility, we weren't really heavy in on that trade, not worth really risking a lot. The very next day, PatternCast moves up a little bit, like that. And we get another signal. And this signal is very different. It's saying that okay, now, after we've taken this trade, it looks like price might rise way higher. Not only rise higher, but be a much larger drop. But that never occurred, so that signal was ignored. And that one, but that had a lower instance of occurrence. It happened 4 times, and 4 times it had it risen up to there and dropped. At least in the past, it worked out. All right. Then we move on to the next day, which would have been yesterday. And so now PatternCast moves it up another day. The window that it's looking at things, which would be right here. I think right there. Is that right? It also says, look, looks like it's going to rise up. Actually, that would be today, right? It's going to rise up again. I'm not going to report exactly what that is, but I mean and that it would hit that, and there would be a subsequent drop. Now that trade happened, or that occurrence, or past occurrence happened, or that pattern happened 13 times, and 12 times it was a winner. That's a 92% rate. And so that's exactly what's happened today. So 2 other days prior to this, it had predicted that we were going to go up, but it didn't really pan out, and now it has. So that's kind of interesting. All within the 4-day time window, which has not expired yet, of the original trade. So that's where we were at. And we're looking very, with much anticipation about what happens now with price. Let's go back to the big head. Yeah, hopefully that all makes sense to you and gives you an idea of exactly what's happening with PatternCast trades. We're not looking at technical analysis. We're not looking at volume profile. We're not looking at moving averages. We're not looking at any of those things. This is strictly a AI pattern recognition machine that from day to day is evaluating patterns based on past occurrences, giving us statistical information on what has happened in the past and the possible outcomes, giving us a what-if scenario, saying if this happens or if that happens, then this is likely to happen based on what has happened in the past. Sometimes we get a small number of occurrences. Sometimes we get a large number of occurrences. I like the large number better, which is what we have now. Large number of occurrences and high occurrence rate are the things that we're looking for. And so right now, that is exactly what we have. Now, could price keep on going up? It could. Or will it drop down? It could also. All I know is that in the past, this has happened 16 times. Is it 16? In the past, this has happened 16 times, and 15 times it has done that, gone down. That seems to me to be a good bet. And that's how we've, every single trade is made in PatternCast, whether it's, just looking at Bitcoin or whether it's looking at futures, Forex, and stocks and the other service. And from that, we have derived an incredible record. When you're on a winning streak, like 15, 16 in a row, I think up to now, and then you have to report one that didn't work out quite so much. But then you sort of step back and you look at, what is the situation there? It gives you a lot of confidence because everything that PatternCast has called has been spot on. Even the non-calls have provided information that is almost prescient to what is happening with the market. So, again, that's it. that's all I have to say today. Oh, and we got... So Chris Curry says, sounds like small position sizes for each PatternCast call has been reinforced in the narrative you just gave. Yes, nice. And that was really because of the, when you have this sort of sideways low occurrence rate and low volatility, it doesn't make a lot of sense to put a lot in there. So when something does go against you, it doesn't hurt so much. And again, that is part of our service that we provide too. We're constantly saying that, on these type of things, we provide additional information than what I'm showing here. Either now is a really good risk, start small, add to the trade if it goes against you, have a plan for where you're going to get in and get out. Chris says, I also love, even though PatternCast doesn't draw from data from Bulkowski, he's referring to the Pattern site, which is a great chart pattern statistical information on, hundreds of thousands of charts. The analysis is embedded in the market. Yeah, the bear flag, that's the other thing. Yeah, I drew this bear flag out there days ago, and for whatever reason, price kind of dropped right into it. So that's kind of interesting too. Maybe it was just luck. Did you not predict 86.96 a week ago? No, a few days, just yesterday. I think it was yesterday or the day before. We said that PatternCast was saying that if price rose up to 86.96, then it was a good short, but it never happened. So, but today it did happen. So the next day it happened. So that's kind of interesting. I've added to my short based on the new information and adjusted my buy limit close to 78.50. Pretty cool. Thanks for the explanation. You're welcome. Trader Glenn wants to know, will PatternCast eventually be able to write a book on patterns since it's an AI? It's artificial, and we think that it's intelligent, but I don't think it's that intelligent. It's not like the million monkeys will eventually write Shakespeare's works. But it is teaching us a lot about the markets, and it's teaching us how to correctly position size our bets, and where are the best places to take risks. So that's what it is teaching us. And so far, I mean, from that point of view, it has been an invaluable service. I just also got some information that I will be doing a webinar very soon in conjunction with our broker partner on the 17th. And the broker is going to be advertising this, and I'll bring that to you in the next few days about the specifics around there if you'd like to attend that webinar, because we'll have some special deals for people that want to join PatternCast. Alrighty. This is, by the way, our broker partner is, I believe, the third largest futures broker in the country, and they're also partnered with the largest Forex broker in the country or the world. But they have determined that we are a third-party advisory, someone that they put on their website. They put our company on their website as a preferred source, as a validated source of trading advisory. So we're very proud of that, especially after being in operation for only a year. So that's pretty cool. And this will mark our first actual marketing event with them. So very excited about that. PatternCast will be expanding. Well, if you, Trader Glenn, if you go to the webinar when I announce it, you'll know. I'm not into, like, saying all this stuff in advance because it's really not relevant right now. And it hasn't happened yet. Although it looks like the date has been, I just got an email. Looks like the date has been firmed up, October 17th. And I'll talk about it in coming podcasts. All right, everybody, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. I hope that this explanation of PatternCast and how it works was informative. And hope to see you soon. See you next video. Take care.